both feel sorry sometimes. It's okay to feel sorry sometimes.
So it is a few days and a haircut later. I was going to put heat wrap on this, but I started having doubts about how long I want to keep this engine or how long I want to keep this car. So I'm thinking I might save the heat wrap for something I want more. But in the meantime, I got this new belt. As you can see, it goes down there without the tensioner now, so this is tight. I got some more stuff plugged up over there. What else? I got the EGR delete done. So I got this plate, and I have that plate back there. So actually, after all that happened, there was a show I wanted to go to, and so I got all my tools in the back seat just in case something happened. And I went to turn the car on, but the car was idling at about like 3,700 RPM, which is not where you want it to be idling, and it never has. And then it came on with an engine light, which surprisingly it's never had. So I kind of let it sit for a second. I tried to see if it would like work through it, but it wasn't. So I just turned it off, figured I wouldn't take it to the show, and then I heard a dripping noise. So I went underneath the car and I saw something dripping. I couldn't verify what it was. So I just left the car here, let it cool down. I went to the show. I came back the next day. One theory of why it was idling so high is because there's a plug that goes into the EGR valve, and I had the EGR valve plugged in and just tucked under the battery tray. So there's this resistor I saw a guy use where he said if you plug it in, it'll trick the computer into thinking the EGR valve's all good. The resistor wouldn't work with the plug, so we cut the plug off, and then we just wired it into the wires separately, and it was me and Caden. So we turned the car on, and it seemed to run better. It started at like 2,000 instead of 3,500, but then Caden started to see some fuel squirting out, so we turned the car off and we diagnosed there's a little residual coming out of the injectors, the area around there, and we think that's because they're not really seated well, because we put the injectors in the rail first and then try to put all of it in the intake manifold, which is not working. And then there's a little bit coming out of the second nipple. I put on after, it's just not holding it. So I have the new fuel rail. This is the post facelift because it only has this opening and not the second nipple right here. This is the one that we have corked up. And then it has this right here, so it doesn't have a fuel pressure regulator like this one does. I'll show you right here, that little silver thing, because that's the vacuum line that goes up to here. So hopefully this will be a relatively easy install. I'm not going to use these injectors. I'm going to see if I can use the new injectors I bought because they're newer. And also when I got this was delivered, the one injector I had was poking out of a hole on this box. I'm trying to see. I think it was poking out of this hole right here. It was just like the tip of the injector was poking out. So I'm going to see if I can use the new injectors, and we'll see how the install goes, because hopefully this will make the car drivable again, which would be nice because it's a car, I want to drive it. So I'll get back to you when stuff happens. Alright, so here I am midway through. I got the old one out. So this has the fuel pressure regulator, whereas with this one that matches the post facelift version, the fuel pressure regulator is already in the back. And then this one, this is the nozzle we were covering up with the little nipple cover with this guy. So this just has them capped off, and then we have that one line right here. And so we have, those are the plugs for the fuel injectors. Here are the old fuel injectors versus the ones I'm going to use. These two caps, they were cracked when they came, but I really felt like returning them, and those caps are only used for like heat protection. So I'm just going to keep them, and since they're newer, I know they work. So I'm just going to use these. I'm going to pick out the cleanest Eclipse I have, and then try and stick it back in. So I have all the plugs unplugged, I have the battery out, and I tested, because before I was a little concerned about the where you had the plugs in but they'd still like wiggle a little bit. So I tested with both the old and new injectors, and they both go in, they seat, and then they wiggle a little bit. So I'm guessing that when they seat, they're fine, it's just the O-ring seated, but then it just relies on the two bolts. These two guys that go into the intake manifold to hold it steady. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out the best way. Well, first I'm going to clean this one up, make sure it looks good before I put it back in since it's already out. I'm going to make sure I lubricate the O-rings before I put them in, get the clips on. I know it'd be easier if I took the intake manifold off first to do it, but I don't really feel like doing that. Either I put the injectors in the intake first and then get the fuel rail, snake it in and pop it in, or I go as one whole unit, because I already had to take off this bracket which connects the intake plenum to the intake manifold. I had to take it off to get the fuel rail out. I'm trying to decide if I want to, because it's all, I want to make sure everything gets seated properly. I want to make sure it all gets where it's supposed to go, and I want to do it without taking out the intake. So I guess we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I got the new fuel rail in. Went together relatively nicely actually. So we have no more fuel pressure regulator over here. We have all these capped off. I went to turn it on. I was up by the engine bay looking for leaks and stuff. My mom primed it, didn't see any leaks, so asked her to start it. It started. It was a little bit of a rough start. Pretty sure that's because you're supposed to prime it more. We have the new fuel system, but it started. It was sitting around like 2,000, 2,500. I mean, that's average for like a car heating up, but then again, this car doesn't have a working, as far as I know, coolant temp sensor. The fans do come on intermittently, so that does help it. The RPMs were staying a little high, which was a little worrying. The engine light came on and I started to see more leaking, and I looked around. It wasn't coming from the fuel and it looked a little goopy. It looked like oil, so I'm going to look at that right now and I'll get back to you with what I find. So I've determined I have made a mistake, or what we in the industry like to call an oopsie. What happened about 2 months ago when I bought the car? After I bought the car, the guy I bought it from, after we were going to go get the title, he was like, hey, now that you bought it, let me just tell you something. I'd recommend resurfacing the head. I was like, okay, cool. So I took it as a helpful tip, not a number one on the list. Fast forward 2 months to now, car's running rough, smoke out the tailpipe, engine light, high revving, leaking out two sides of the block. I have determined he was probably right. I need to resurface the head. Only problem is, the head is installed. It doesn't have the head delete. It is, what time is it? 9:44. Optimistically, I don't know why, I'm gonna try and get off tonight. I got big old light. Got charging cord right here, so my phone doesn't die while I'm playing music. And we're gonna get it done. I made a mistake, so things happen. I'm gonna take it off so I can get it to a machine shop, and I'm gonna get new head bolts instead of old ones, because the old ones are probably stretched and it's probably not helping at all. So yeah, I got light. I got my second line, my rechargeable one. It's charging. I'll get that. And I'm gonna try and film more the process, because this car is heavily undershown. There's like one guy on YouTube that really helped me. His name, I think his channel name was called Car Mod's Garage, and he really helped me out because he detailed the 420A engine specifically, which helped me a lot because I got to see what I needed to do. So now I'm going to try and give back, show what I can, and get this head off, hopefully. I'm not saying nothing. That's not wood. I don't know why I did that. I'll call that good enough. So I'm gonna put the camera down for a little bit, get some stuff done, and then when I come to a point where I feel like I need to show something, I'll be back. Alright, so it's a little bit after that. We got battery out, cam position sensor out, we got the distributor, that out, the plugs, unplug some plugs, got the one line over there undone. And then, so I got the spark plugs out, and here, let me get, there we go. So you see the right two are a little more charged than the other one. The middle one is a lot brighter, and then the left one is kind of like in the middle. I mean, it's weird to see so much of a difference, but then again, there's a lot of stuff weird with this car. So I'm gonna keep on going and see how it goes. I'll talk to you guys in a bit. Man, someone really messed up that bolt. Couldn't be me. Whoops. Update time. So we got valve cover off, intake manifold off, all the plugs, all the wires, all from here taken off. Obviously the throttle cable taken off. Next is probably exhaust. I'm gonna leave the plenum on there and then take it off while I get it off, when I get the head off, because there's this bracket back there, you can't see it. It's really close around the alternator, and it looks really annoying to get to, so I'm gonna wait to get the head off until I do that. I need to get the exhaust manifold. I need to drain the coolant so I can get the thermostat off. Power steering pump, and I need to figure out what to do about the cam gears. Yeah, I need to figure out what to do about the cam gears. I'm trying to do this with minimal stuff taken off, but this cover is behind this. I know I have to take this off because it's in the head, but yeah, we'll see what happens. So I'm gonna keep grinding. It's currently 11:15, I think I saw, so we're gonna keep going. So to make the, I'm just gonna put the coolant back in the old coolant containers, but to make it fit under the tube, I had to take off the petcock. Alright, so now that I got all the coolant out of the radiator, I'm looking at it, and it's looking a lot more brown than when I put it in there. Probably a mix of old engine stuff from when the engine was dirty, still is dirty probably, and probably a little bit of oil. Alright, so now I got power steering bracket off so I can get the thermostat's off. We have all this unplugged. About to do the exhaust manifold. After the exhaust manifold, gotta figure out what to do with this fella, because I think I'm gonna leave those on until after I get it off. I just want to get the head off today. I don't need to decide what to do, how to take it out. But yeah, I will keep updating you as stuff goes on. Alright, so I got the exhaust manifold off. I came over to here, I got the engine mount out. The engine is on the jack. So right here, the only thing stopping me from taking this off is the belt. The cam gears are in front of this cover right here, so I need to figure that out. But I think I'm going to stop for tonight. I'm going to continue this when I get some more rest. And yeah, tonight I just had some time, want to see how far I can get, and this is how far I got. So I'm going to close this up and go to bed. And I'll see you guys next time I work on this thing. Yeah, this looks pretty good after I got the valve cover off. Got all the bolts here, got the cam still kicking, got the lifters. Whoever broke that bolt was a real dingus.